about damn time.
It's about damn time. In a minute. Oh, that's probably copyright. Okay.
Not even 30 seconds in, copyright issues. Missionary. We are
more than, yes.
We are more than missionary.
Welcome to the first episode of More Than Missionary.
We're off to a great start.
My name is Kristina.
I'm Ashley.
So first, before we get into anything, we just want to put out a quick disclaimer. We are not licensed psychologists, therapists, life coaches, sex coaches, etc. We are literally two humans who like to talk about sex and share stories, experiences that might be relatable to you or someone you know, so we can all become more knowledgeable in the practices of safe and fun sex. So just a quick disclaimer before we get into anything.
People are still going to come for us.
Yes, but this is just to make it easier for us. Okay, so like I said, my name is Kristina. I am a bisexual, slightly bratty sub who is a switch once in a blue moon. I am a practicing eclectic witch who focuses primarily on the Greek pantheon. Everyone's religion is valid, and I am a big believer that to each their own as long as it's not hurting anyone. I don't tolerate intolerance and will call you out if you are acting a fool. I am loud, I talk a lot, and I love to read smutty romance novels and 100% a bitch who Googles.
I am Ashley. I am a bisexual, bratty sub that is also a switch on rare occasions. I'm a Norse pagan, but I believe all religions and mythologies are accurate in their own way. Therefore, I am constantly researching other spiritual and religious views. I practice witchcraft as well, and I mostly fuck with herbology. Some call me a green witch. I just consider myself a practitioner of the old ways. So that's a little bit about me.
Very nice. Okay, great. So, I guess it's just like, I don't know, let's start it off. Like, Ashley, what would you say, what made you want to start doing this podcast?
Well, you came to me, if you remember,
Yes.
about, like, wanting to do a podcast. And we had thrown around the idea of doing it about spirituality. And as much as I love that, I feel like there's 1,000,001 podcasts about spirituality.
Yes. I listened to many of them.
Yes, and there's so many good ones. There's so many, and that was the issue, is like, if there were so many but not any good ones, I would be like, okay, we're just going to be relaying information that's already out there.
Yeah.
And I've been on quite the sexual journey now for a few years, but more recently this last year more than ever, and more just like figuring out who I am in that process and redefining, everything, because there are definitions now that we never had before.
Oh, yeah. No, I completely agree.
So, I don't know, you, came to me about this idea of having a podcast, and I was like, well, it'd be pretty cool if we did one, on sexuality, because it's not really talked about.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's something that you and I are comfortable openly talking about, but a lot of people give us looks, are really uncomfortable when it is talked about. But
yeah, it's definitely, I definitely want to open up the idea of, these taboo topics that, generally society kind of looks down upon, right? Or it's just not talked about enough. There's a lot of niche portions of it. There's a lot of gray area with it. And I feel like a lot of that stuff, because it's such a large umbrella and there's so many different topics, it seemed just like a really great way for you and I to dissect it for ourselves, as well as just if that's what's going to be helpful to other people, then that's great. And that way, we're...
Well, and I think we both came to the conclusion that whatever we do, we want to do it to somehow help people in some way or another.
Yes. No, yeah, exactly. So that's kind of just a little bit about, what you thought about it. I think for me too, I've always wanted to do a podcast, and so I'm so glad that I'm able to start one. I'm starting one with you because you are an incredibly open-minded, loving individual, and every time we get together and we have great conversations and talks, and I feel like it always leads to a better sense of enlightenment, at least for me, when I walk away from it at the end of the day. I
feel like we both educate each other in different ways.
Yes, yeah, we definitely do. 100%. Just kind of diving right into it. Of as far as what my personal sexual journey. I grew up very repressed, sexually repressed, because of the fact that I grew up in an incredibly religious household, Christian household, and it was very, like, sex was talked about, but it was talked about in a way that wasn't, like, a very open conversation. It was just like, wait till you get married, and then once you're married, it's like wonderful. And so I grew up in this headspace of like, ooh, like sex is wrong, and like it's something that I shouldn't be enjoying it until like the time is right to do it. And even though like internally I always kind of thought it was bullshit, like it was like, I don't know if I'm actually gonna like stick to that, but we'll see. But then it wasn't until I went to
cross
college,
that bridge when it comes.
Exactly. And I feel like once I went away to college, that's when I started to really understand a lot more about myself sexually. Like I had like my first like bisexual experience that was big, and that's kind of when I also like fell out of the church, because like that was like, this is just not right. And so I kind of stopped focusing more on that and more about like what does Kristina want, what do I want, what do I actually like and enjoy. And it was definitely a searching experience for sure. And I'm really lucky that my husband, who I met in college, was always kind of by my side and, very encouraging of, my own personal thoughts and explorations about sex, and was always like kind of held my hand through a lot of it, which was really great. But that's kind of a little bit about like my own personal sexual journey, as to this point a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, you and Gabe have, like, a really cool relationship, though, in general.
Thank you. Yeah. No,
like, the way you guys have grown.
Yes.
And I've only known you for such a small glimpse of that. But, yeah. I mean, from everything, like, you guys' communication is A1.
It's, you know what? It's one of those things where, like, we're both very much on the same page with, like, communication is key in our relationship. And in regards to, like, all aspects. And I feel like a lot of it definitely stems from our own personal like issues with communication that we've worked on over time. Like I've been in therapy for 12, 13 years at this point. And I feel like that's where I've really focused on a lot. And I'm very lucky. My husband is incredibly patient and always wants to communicate with me about anything and everything. And so that's, for us, it's definitely key.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and I think a lot of people lose that. Like, they're like, how do you make it work after all this time? And it's like, just talk to each other.
We just talk to each other. Literally that. And it's also, like, it's important to, like, if you need space on something, like, get space.
Yeah.
You don't need to...
But it's also communication. It's like, okay,
you just have to communicate it.
But,
yeah.
like, I need space. I need a
minute.
It
literally, everything boils down to communication. Even when there's, like, an argument. We always kind of end up being, like, like, if we have an argument, like, everybody does... in relationships, we'll like walk away from it and be like, we have literally asked each other, like, where is the communication broken down? What happened? Yeah. Because like at the end of the argument, we're like, oh wait, we kind of agree with each other.
Yeah, because and that's the thing too, is that like a lot of people don't even realize that it's not, sometimes it's not even the issue. It's the communication.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you even have to be a jerk in order to be able to get things out. And it might not even be you might not even be saying what you mean, but that's why, like, that communication breakdown is perfect of, like, okay, this is what I'm saying versus what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Like, where is the issue here? Where are we struggling?
Definitely, exactly, especially if you have different, like, communication styles.
Oh, sure.
Like, I'm a very direct person. I'm very, like, upfront. Like, sometimes I have to be cognizant of how not gentle I'm being when I'm talking, because like to me I'm just like, well, I'd rather just be blunt and like get it out of the way. But just like in general, and I do think this is part of being ADHD too, it's just like I am very blunt about a lot of things. Like sometimes certain social cues, like yes, for the most part are fine and dandy and I can I can navigate it well, but when it comes to like being subtle about things, like I am not subtle. No. I am the least subtle individual you have probably ever met. I'm Agreed, not subtle.
Me too.
So it's hard when you're having to be aware of how you're saying things to people and your significant others or just like your friendships and whatever is going on in your life. It's something that I've always kind of struggled with in regards to my communication. And, for other people's communication styles, sometimes like they'll they speak more in like metaphorical terms because that's just what makes sense to them, right? And so again, it's like having to really focus on what that person is trying to convey to you instead of being like me, who's really blunt. So like that can cause a rift in, or not like a rift, but like that can cause arguments and things like that. So it's just really important that you communicate often and you understanding the other person's communication style too. Yeah. So
I'm just one of the, like, I don't know, I feel like I could never be with somebody who's not as blunt as me.
I mean, it's definitely...
Because I'm very much a say what you mean.
Yeah, like, just say what you mean. Just, like, say what you mean. Don't beat around the bush. Yeah, exactly.
I'm not about that, because I hate the, well, you know what I meant.
Well, no, yeah, I mean...
I'm not doing that.
No, yeah. I mean, I feel like there is a difference, though. Like, you have to be careful, because sometimes when people, depending on their communication style, they can be more metaphorical, but they're not trying to be... like hidden or like mysterious, like, you know what I mean? Like some people, like sometimes people do not understand what they're even trying to say because they're like it's bopping around in their brain, so they don't even know. Like they clearly haven't figured it out yet, so they don't know what to say.
Peaches is like that on To Be Better.
Oh yeah,
she's very metaphorical, but she also is a say what you mean kind of person.
She is, yes, and her husband's very blunt too. Yes, very blunt individual, and I love their podcast. Not us promoting somebody else's podcast. We're like, definitely check them out.
Definitely check them out.
So focusing on your communication style with other people's communication styles is something we all need to, I think, work better on.
Oh, for sure.
In regards to...
do you know how much better the world would be if we all could just, like, communicate better? Yeah. We were all, like, active listeners and just capable of, you know, being empathetic to one another. Oh my God, what a concept.
Oh God, a lot of issues would probably with your own personal, you know, spiritual / sexual journey. Do you feel like that they were ever do you ever feel like they
coincide?
Yeah, like they like almost like they were parallel to each other a little bit?
When I leveled up sexually, I leveled up spiritually.
Interesting.
Insane amounts.
Interesting. Okay. I feel like for me it was like the other way around. Okay. Like I feel like when I dropped a lot of my own, everybody's got their own process, right? I was like, once I stopped focusing on like what I thought that my religion told me to do, is when I felt more free to think about the other things.
So I had rebelled against religion before. I had been rebelling against religion since I was a child.
Oh, so I didn't know that.
I think maybe that's the difference, is like I've always had that rebellious of like, why are we not asking more questions? And it's so funny that my mom and I talk about this all the time, like how frustrating it was, because I went to catechisms, I did all of that stuff. I've been baptized, I've got my confirmation, I've done all of it. And so as like a kid, I would just get in fights like with the instructors.
Like you would challenge their thought process on things?
And it wasn't that I was just challenging because like I wanted to rebel. It was just I was just genuinely curious. Like I just like didn't understand, because I also wasn't the kid that like just blindly would listen. Like I would go home and read that Bible. And I would be like, but why does the Bible say this then?
Oh, yes. I was the same way with my church. Like, I remember asking our pastor, and he was, like, redirecting the conversation, like, if he didn't have an answer for a lot of stuff.
And I would get so frustrated, and so I would always get sent outside of the classroom. Like, I wasn't allowed to participate anymore. They would just put me in the hallway. And I remember that so vividly, just sitting in the hallway, so confused. And I was like, does God not love me because I ask questions? Like,
yeah, it was like, I was always told, like, oh, if you have doubts, doubt your doubts. Yes. And that's like, I was always like, that's so, what an odd cop-out answer. Like, I didn't have the words for it at the time, but I'd be like, okay, and like, wouldn't really know how to respond to it. And it would,
the simple of, that's why it's called believing.
Yeah, like, it's like using these, like, generalized cop-out answers to, like, brush over your questions so you don't have to, like, actually answer it, you know, like as like somebody who's a pastor or like your religious leaders in your group.
I know.
Yeah, you painted it. Sorry, yeah, we have, I have 2 cats, and they are menaces, and you might see them pop up, and I just really hope they don't screw with any of the cords that we have set up right now.
There's a lot of cords.
This took a long time to figure out.
No, so I don't know. I think I had rebelled against religion at such a young age that sexuality really wasn't even in the question yet. And then when I actually left the Catholic Church, I had not really chosen a religion. I kind of had just said I really enjoy Buddhism. I had gone to a few Buddhist temples and stuff and just hung out, did the meditation thing, and I really enjoyed that. And then I found Wiccan, and I was super intrigued by that. And I just was not capable of choosing a deity to be my matron or patron. Yeah. And at the time, I just had people who, again, were very culty about the whole Wiccan thing.
Yeah, especially when you grow up in a Christian home. Yeah. In any sort, witchcraft is big no. Oh, it's a big no. It's you can get it's bad. You're gonna open up.
I grew up bad things. Irish Catholic. Okay. It's a little bit different. So the only reason that is different is because I grew up with a grandmother who had a lot of Celtic pagan practices.
That's cool.
So, but we didn't call them witchcraft. We weren't I think a lot of our grandparents still lived in fear. My grandmother did things that were very witchcraftic.
Did she know? Do you think she knew at the time that it was witchcraft?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so she was actively being I know this is more witchcraft. It wasn't you know how some people are okay. An example is Christmas trees. Okay, that's inherently pagan, right? But a lot of Christian households will decorate the tree. So it's kind of that's what I'm asking. Yeah. I get with people about this. That's for a different episode. We could do that on a mini-sode.
I remember seeing, pine trees in Jerusalem.
Yeah, but I think there's palm trees, but that might be about it.
We're not gonna decorate those. We've seen the Corona commercial. I'm gonna bleep that out.
Yeah, Corona is not sponsoring us. I fully promise.
Oh my god. So, what were we talking about? Stay on topic.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, I just rebelled against all that a long time ago, but I had kind of really decided I was a pagan. I just believed in many gods. I also believe that all of them are within us. Yeah. Which is a very weird concept. I think a lot of people have a hard time.
I think everybody has access to gaining knowledge and getting to know a deity. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? The door is always open for you to go through.
Yes. But so here's the thing, and this is going to go a little bit more with this is going to get kind of in depth. So just bear with me for a second. Okay. So what I believe is that everything exists. So God is not a being in the sky with a big beard and is no white dude, right? I don't believe that. I believe that God is the feeling of positive energy. I also feel Allah, same thing. I feel and that's why I think a lot of people associate with the sun. It's associated with is a positive energy.
I see. Okay, I see. Follow.
And so I believe that is instilled within our soul. Everybody owns that. We all have it within us. It's not an outside source. It's something that we have within us, which is why miracle healings and things like that happen. It has nothing to do with the act of touching somebody. It has nothing to do with the act of science of fixing the body. I think it's everything to do with the fact that it's within us, and some of us are capable of tapping into that, and some of us are not.
Yeah, okay, you know what, I actually really like that explanation. Being able to tap into it versus not being able to tap into it.
It also coincides, again, bro. It also coincides, again, hear me out, the ability of healing and all of that coincides with us being the light being within us. Yeah. Due to string theory. We are all connected.
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I believe that, like, quantum physics shows that all energy can be connected. I believe that we're all connected.
Okay.
Which is why we can feel when people are energetically shifted.
That's a good point. It kind of seems like almost like a root system. Like, if you look at a tree, right? There's, like, the single tree, but then there's, like, all the roots underneath that you don't even see.
I believe we all came from the same roots.
Okay. Oh, I like that. I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of giving me, like... And I'm not saying it's right. It is a movie, though. It's giving me, like, Avatar. You know what I mean? You know how, like, in Avatar, they've got, like, the tree, the tree of life?
I do believe that. Like, I do believe that we all own that energy. I believe that, like, some of us are just capable of tapping into it. And some of us have educated ourselves and opened our minds enough to be able to tap it. Which is why, again, what we were talking about earlier, about how sometimes bless you.
Excuse me.
We are more powerful manifestors than we even realize.
Yeah.
I think it goes with that. I think some people are just like, they're more powerful. And they
I think people are more tapped into...
They're tapped into that third eye.
Yeah, I would have to agree. And I will say, though, like, I do think that for some people, like you were saying, it's more, like, innate or, like, natural to them. Yes. You know what I mean? But for some people, they really have to work at it.
It wasn't always natural for me, though. It took me a very long time to get to that point.
I feel like...
And I'm still working on it.
It's, like, I personally, like, I feel like there's certain times where I feel like I'm more energetically open to a lot of things versus, like, other times. And I think that has to do with, like, mental health. There's so many different factors, right? Did I get enough sleep last night? I don't know. So, I feel like I tend to have I personally have more of a difficult time with trying to connect in that way spiritually, like, all the time. Like, for instance, I even think that there are people who, you know, they believe in a certain deity, right? Or, like, they follow a certain deity, regardless if it's Christian or Muslim or whatever, who, like, genuinely have a connection to that God and are very in tune. Like, I have a family member who I'm very close with who is like that. Like, their Christian God is their God, and they connect very deeply and, like, have full-blown conversations with him. And, like, I believe them. I'm like, listen, I do think you are talking to a being. I think it is, you know, whoever you follow and whatever, it's going to float your boat. So, but I think that some people are more tapped into that than others. Like, I know people who, that's why there's a lot of people who are like, that's bullshit. I've never once experienced something like that. There's no way that exists. Because it's, like, unfathomable to think about some crazy experience that somebody else could have on, like, a metaphysical level.
Yeah. I will say, like, even when I was a practicing Catholic, I was never capable of getting to that level of feeling like I was capable of talking to
Agreed.
a God.
Agreed.
I was not connected to that God. Now, I'm not saying that you can't connect with that God.
Sometimes they don't really want to connect with you, though. You know what I mean?
I wasn't able to connect. And, like, I get it. Like, that's not, it's not my place, like you said, to tell somebody, like, what they believe isn't
incorrect
real.
or isn't real. Yeah.
Because I believe that you can connect with your God. I mean, your God is Hades.
Yes, correct.
And I'm sure you feel connected with him, and
very much so.
You've had what you feel like are conversations with your deity.
Absolutely.
And same thing. I have a deity myself, and for those of you who understand Norse paganism, Air is a goddess who is not very well known, but she is my deity. It's great. Can never find a lot of information about her, so it's always sideline information. But I feel a very strong connection with her, being somebody who really likes to practice in neurology. Yeah. So I feel like I talk to her every time I make a spell jar, or I'm mixing up medicine for myself, or, you know, I feel very connected to her, but I was never able to feel that connection with, you know, a Catholic God, or, you know, so.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of gods out there, there's a lot of gods out there who might want to connect with you on a level that is very specific about something. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yes, I do a lot of deity work with Hades, and I feel like my deity work is actually it's about, like, my own personal financial responsibility is a big one for me. Staying focused is big for me. And I feel like being able to connect with Hades and in however I am, whether it's like through tarot or other types of divination or just like in general meditating and things like that, I genuinely feel like a sense of calmness in my own responsibility and being able to kind of check myself. So it's almost like a therapist. Like or like check in with myself and like check in with my deity to be able to kind of just make sure that I feel like I'm on the right path, right? Yeah. Like is what I'm doing, for my own best, my best, highest self, right? Like things like that, and trying to focus solely on that with him. Now I have done work with his wonderful wife, Persephone, because wherever Hades goes, Persephone follows for the most part, and vice versa, for a lot of deity work, which was so funny to me because I remember when I was working with Hades and I was like using my tarot deck as well as my pendulum, and I was getting these like weird answers that were like not. I was like, this what? And then I had to like ask. I was like, am I speaking to Hades? And it was like the spinning the other way. It was like, no. Like the conch shell from SpongeBob where it's like, am I doing this? No. Try again. No. And like I was like, who am I speaking to? I'm like, all right, am I speaking to Hecate? And I was starting going through some of the gods, and then all of a sudden I was like, wait a minute. I'm being a
Why wasn't that your first cast?
That's it, because I was still learning. It was like my first few weeks of like understanding what I was doing and doing my own research.
What's funny is because you were still a baby witch too is probably why she was.
Yeah, she just like popped up. It was like almost like, oh hey, like heard you was working with my husband, and I'm just also here to let you know that I am also here. And it made sense that she popped up because like I was dealing with certain shadow work issues that didn't always coincide with my like financial situation, but it made sense. And what was really cool is when I was doing my tarot readings, I was like, is it like I was shuffling my cards and I was like, am I speaking to Persephone or whatever? And I was using the divination with my tarot, so it was giving me a yes, but then I would also ask my tarot deck, and then all of a sudden her calling card popped up in my reading, and I literally not gymmed the camera, but I like as if there was some invisible camera near me, and I was just like, oh my God, and like could not like just fathom. I was like, no way. And it's just like very reassuring to me that I was like, oh wow, like yeah, no, I'm definitely talking to this deity and like wanting to work with this deity. I felt very honored to be able to I felt very seen. Like I was like, wow, like that's really cool,
So bringing up Hecate, I have connected with her on a crazy level recently on my spiritual journey.
That's really cool.
On a fucked up level. I don't know what it is. So, okay, I guess we should do like a little trigger warning.
Yeah.
Okay, so trigger warning. Things we will talk about might involve SA, so let's get that out there.
Which that goddess is a protector of.
Yes. And so, I was actually at the tattoo shop recently, and some girl was getting this super dope Medusa tattoo. I was so for it. I loved it.
I love Medusa tattoos. Those look so good.
She sat in the chair for like hours, and she killed it. This poor girl sat in the chair for hours. I was watching her getting tattooed. I was like, dang, girl, like, he packing in that black. Like, yeah.
You know that. But it's like, too. Sometimes it's like calf. It almost goes numb at that point. But yeah, sorry, keep going.
So it was her whole calf getting done. And I asked the tattoo artist, how did it go, like, the other day, because I came back for another tattoo. And they were like, oh, it was so good. She cried at the end after she saw it because she was so happy. And they were like, the meaning behind the Medusa tattoo? And I said, yes, I do. In fact, at one point, I wanted to get it done. Yeah. But I felt like, and so this is sad. It's an overdone tattoo. Yeah. And it's not always just done by, like, people of SA. I mean, she's a dope goddess in general. Like, her story is awesome, so I could see why a lot of people get her tattooed. Yeah. But it's an overdone tattoo. Yes. And I was like, it's almost like a basic white girl thing to do now, to get a...
It's crazy, because, like, some people will get it for, like, the deep meaning behind that, right? Like why certain people get Medusa tattoos and the symbolism behind it. Some people will get it because they just think it looks cool, which it does. Cool. Like I have seen some very cool Medusa tattoos. I personally just always assume on the side of caution and bring like, oh wow, what a great cool tattoo, why'd you get it? Like I just am gonna assume why you got it, whether you know the symbolism or not. And so like that's on you to do your own research about that, but I do love the tattoo look. I think it looks really great, and it is like it's just
not something I wanted after I saw that everybody else was getting it and how predominant it's been. And so I was like, you know, I don't want to be known as a victim.
Yeah, I mean, putting that out on display can be
really raw.
It can be really raw, and it could open up wounds over and over again that you may have, I mean...
Again, she was strong. She was a survivor. She was not a victim. She did not have victim mentality about any of it. And I think that's why a lot of people get it. It's because of the symbolism behind not being the victim. It's the symbolism being, you know, she came back stronger and she made those, you know, she came back with vengeance.
Yes.
But I started thinking very much about the story of Persephone, actually.
Yeah.
And Hecate's involvement with her. And I was like, I want to be a Hecate.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a Medusa.
Yeah.
I want to be a Hecate. Like, I want that.
You have a very, like, almost like motherly guidance energy to you that's like I personally find with Hecate. Like when I have not had the pleasure of doing any deity work with her. I would love to one day be able to connect with her. But right now that's not my current focus. But she gives almost not like, I don't know if motherly is the right word, but like almost like big sister vibes to Persephone, and I think that their relationship is very interesting considering that Hecate also lives in the underworld. So it's like when Persephone came down to the underworld, like you know, I'm sure that was like, oh, thank God there's another woman here. Okay, so it's almost like kind of like a guidance, like a older big sis guidance vibe, and I personally feel like you have that. You know, I
also love animals.
Yes,
I love animals.
Yeah,
and obviously the witchcraft behind it. And Hecate's also a herbologist.
Yes.
So I think I just connected with her. And then recently I went on like a very sexual opening spiritual journey type thing over the summer, which has been fun. It's been really weird. But I started connecting with her more during this experience and really owning my feminine energy. And I think that's really what it was about. It was really owning that feminine energy.
Yeah.
And I also started doing this thing that I saw on TikTok. And that is gifting your orgasms to your gods.
I have heard of that. I have also seen that on TikTok. And I am very curious about...
Oh, girl, be careful with it. It works.
It works. I mean, you have to think about like the intense energy that is behind like orgasming. Yeah. And you know what's very interesting is like there is like certain, you know, it's like, you know, under like the umbrella of like sex magic, right? And like being able to like utilize that energy that you are like giving out in whatever, you know, whatever space that's in, and focusing it on like either a deity or your own manifestation. And it is honestly one of the coolest things that I have come across up on the internets, as a lady who Googles. So it's definitely something that I have not had the pleasure of partaking in, but it is something that I have definitely seen and something I'd like to do more research on.
Yes. I don't know if you've noticed, but I feel like I've had a serious glow up this year. Yes.
I mean, it seems like can you explain a little bit more that, like, you know, to whatever your comfort level is as to like how you feel like it has manifested? Is it like instantaneous? Is it something that you feel like because of the intensity of that that comes to fruition based off of
It
like
goes faster.
Faster because
it goes way faster.
Okay.
I'm also very impatient.
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah.
I'm a very impatient person. So sometimes like I start to doubt myself and my capabilities, but I'm manifesting things and they're not coming fast enough. Like I get very frustrated. And then it's very easy to, give up on those manifestations or just like doubt yourself, and then that prolongs it even more from happening for you.
Yeah.
There's been some things that I've been working on specifically this year with my sexuality and stuff. Just wanting to feel more comfortable in my body and just feeling more comfortable in general.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to be that person that would go to the gym in sweatpants and a sweater and like hide. And it wasn't really about, trying to sweat it out or anything, or it was because I was so insecure. I just like didn't want anybody to see my body,
Yeah, no, I can understand that like insecurity part going into a gym. I hate going into gyms.
All I wanted really like to embody was more confidence. That's literally all I wanted. Because I think that confidence is like key essentially, and I think if you carry yourself with enough confidence, everything else will just ebb and flow for you.
You know what, like seriously, I know it's a cliche phrase, but like fake it till you make it legit does work.
It
like
really does.
It doesn't work for everything, but it can if it depends on your like, oh, your only obstacle is you, but truly it is.
But if you already know that you're going to make it, it's not faking it, and that's how I feel.
Yeah.
If you like, because I already like I know that I know that I'm a baddie. Like, I know these things.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's like, why am I being so insecure all the time? Why do I feel like this all the time?
I mean, we always get in our own way. It's also like, I mean, it's important. We have to make sure we are humble. Like, I feel the same way. Seriously, like,
but that's us living in a man's world. Why do we have to check ourselves?
True. That's true. That's a very good point. Like for me, I am always like, oh, like I'm a 10. Like I feel like a 10. Right? Like look good, feel good, play good type of mentality. And I'm like, listen, like I know, like you, like I'm like I'm a bad bitch. I'm a baddie. Like I know what I've got going on.
Yeah.
I know what I have going on, and like I do sometimes though, and it 100% is like you were just saying, like you live in a man society where it's like, oh, you feel like you need to keep yourself in check, right? And it's like part of me does feel the need to do that, but that's also for me, like I'm always like, man, what if I get like too big of a head? You know what I mean? Like what if I'm just like a piece of shit,
Right.
And I don't want to be that. But I don't think that's the case. I think it's just like
that would ever be a thing for either one of us because we're too empathetic.
That's true. That's a great point.
So I was having this conversation with my cousin that I feel more comfortable feeling empathy for other people and sadness than I do feel happiness for myself.
Really? Okay.
I struggle with happiness for myself.
Yeah. No.
And I don't mind creating happiness for somebody else at the expense of my own.
You know what? I'm the same way. Do you feel like you're a people pleaser?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
We're both recovering people pleasers.
Yeah, I know. Yes, 100%. I am a recovering people pleaser. And it's like you feel like such a sense of guilt for like no reason.
Yes. This guilt for
no
like
reason.
Feeling good about yourself.
Yeah, where it's like, oh, like I'm being like selfish. Yes. Like that's kind of what it feels like. Oh, I'm being selfish in a bad way.
What I just wanted to embody this year.
Yeah, as you should.
I wanted to embody feeling good about myself and feeling confident and just knowing that like myself, like I have high self-worth.
Yes.
And I can't do that if I'm constantly making myself feel small.
You know what? That's such a great point.
And so I really called to Hecate on that.
That's amazing.
And that's what I wanted. I just wanted confidence. That's all I wanted.
That's what I'm saying. Like that's kind of what I was saying a little bit earlier. Like sometimes you focus on a specific thing with a certain deity, right? Mm-hmm. Which is why I love doing deity work, because you don't have to like all encompassing like work on every single aspect that deity offers to you, but like something specific, right? Like so like the fact that you're like, okay, like I'm focusing very specific on my own confidence levels with Hecate, like that's to me, and maybe this is an ADHD thing, I don't know, but being able to singularly focus on one thing with one person or a deity that you're working with is so much easier than being like, here's this one, here's a God for you to look at and worship, and he'll help you with everything. And it's like, but
so much of my spirituality before I could choose a deity.
Yeah.
Although I have chosen one, I think and I was talking to you about this because I have Erisbine rune on tattooed on me. And I really wanted to get a Hecate tattoo next.
Yeah. And I mean, that would be really cool. I love Hecate is a great.
But I also, so as much as I say that I'm a Norse pagan, I don't even really believe I'm a Norse pagan. I just believe I'm a pagan.
I mean, there, you know what, though? There's no set in stone thing where, I'm this or I'm that. It is a flowing and growing
I believe in everything.
Process.
I believe it's all real.
Yes. No, I also agree with you.
I feel like this did end up becoming a spirituality podcast.
Today it did, yes. I mean, here's the thing. We want to talk a lot about our sexual experiences and our spiritual experiences, how they coincide with each other.
They do really coincide.
And they do. And so I feel like it's you're not every point and topic is always going to be about be about a combination of both sexual and spiritual, even though yes, they are connected, but sometimes you have to think about one thing to get to the other. You know? And yes, we talked a little bit about our own, some sexual experiences that were parallel to our spiritual, but I mean, really, I think diving into the idea of what our spiritual experiences are will really help with understanding our own sexual experiences later on. And you got to start somewhere. So
here we are starting.
What do you want people to get out of your voice being used in this, sexual / spiritual?
I just want information out there. Really. I really just want people to be able to have the information and utilize it and not feel shame about it. Yeah. Actually, I guess that would be it. I don't want there to be shame behind, because I carried so much shame.
Yeah.
So much. And guilt. And we're going to do a lot on that, I think. We have a lot under that topic to talk about. But I want people to feel comfortable to embody their sexual beings within themselves. What are you doing, love?
I know. Lunabelle.
You're so funny.
She's being a curious little kitty cat.
I know. She's like, let me in on this. I got something to say.
Yeah, she does. She wants to say something.
What about you, though? What's your goal?
I really want those who listen in to feel like somebody else understands them. You know what I mean? Yes, definitely on shame, but also on not feeling alone. For a very long time, felt very alone. I always thought I was very weird for some of my thought processes about sexuality and spirituality. And same with what I was saying before with growing up in a household where a lot of that stuff wasn't, a lot of sexual stuff was not okay. Mm-hmm. And so feeling very alone can really discourage you to do your own research and understand yourself. And so that's, for me, it's mostly about, I really don't want people to feel alone in this.
Well, I think when we were talking about this, when we were, last time, when we got together,
yeah,
we were trying to figure out, okay, what is more than Missionary? What is it? Yeah. Because it's not just a podcast to us.
It's more than Missionary.
It's more than that. No, really. No, really. We were talking, we wanted to create a community.
Yeah.
That was the goal. We wanted a community.
Yeah. Speaking of community, I would like to say if there is anybody actually listening to our podcast besides just our own voices, I would really love to know certain things that you guys want us to talk about on this podcast.
Yes.
In regards to this umbrella that we have created.
We have an email.
Yes, we do have an email. Our email, if you want to send us anything, any inquiries, questions, or comments, make sure, hopefully they're not rude.
Please don't be rude to us.
Please don't be rude to us. We're trying our best. Is morethanmissionary69@gmail.com. That is morethanmissionary69@gmail.com. Send us any inquiries, questions.
It'll be in the
things
show
like that.
notes too.
It'll also be in the show notes. So that being said,
I think we can sign this one off.
We can sign this one off. Thank you guys so much for
Thanks
listening.
for joining our first one.
Thank you for joining our first podcast episode, and we hope to see you on the next one. Love you guys so much.
Welcome to the shit show, baby.
Welcome to the shit show.